Hey everybody, Hake Hardware here, and in this video we are going to install Excalidraw on Proxmox 9 in an LXC. Excalidraw is an awesome free open source virtual whiteboard application that I use all the time in my home lab. It's great for organizing things. I probably build like diagrams, the most within it. Tons of uses though, definitely recommend it. And today we're going to get it installed. So the prerequisites, I'm using Proxmox VE 9. This probably works on 8, but I didn't test it out, so I'm just putting 9 plus here. You need to be able to SSH into your Proxmox host. So as you can see on the right-hand side here, I have my SSH manager, and I have SSH'd into Sirius, which is my Proxmox host. And then you're going to want to assign a static IP address to Excalidraw. For me, it's going to be this 10.105. And then you're going to need to know your network gateway IP address, and you're going to need to be able to assign, I'd say 3 gigabytes of RAM minimum, 10 gigabytes of disk space, but if you can do 4 gigabytes, that helps a little bit as far as like the build process for the application, but Excalidraw itself does not use that much RAM. Network configuration, this is basically what I'm going to be doing, which is assigning Excalidraw 10.105, and then my gateway is 10.1, and then for most people, /24 is going to be your subnet mask. And the first thing we're going to do is get our LXC created. So you can run PVEAM update, which gets the latest container templates, and then you can find the latest version of Debian 13 by just running this grep and filtering out turnkey Linux. So we'll be using this Debian version right here. And I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to download it. And I'm going to paste in this container create command. And what this does is basically we're creating a container. It's going to get ID 105, and I actually typically try to match my IP address with the container. And we're going to be pulling our template from the local storage, which is where we downloaded it. And this is the template that we downloaded. Make sure you update these commands, the download command and the container command, to reflect if you're using a different version of Debian 13. We're going to be calling this container, its host name is going to be Excalidraw. I'm assigning 4 gigs of memory, 2 cores. We're installing the root file system onto local LVM. And these are pretty much the defaults for Proxmox. So you should already have a local LVM. And we're going to do 10 gigabytes. And then net 0 is to assign a static IP address. The networking right here is basically the defaults, so you shouldn't need to change that. The IP address will be this, and we're going to specify the gateway here. It's going to be a non-privileged container. It's going to start whenever Proxmox, if I restart Proxmox, it will start automatically. And then start 1 just means as soon as I run this command, it's going to start the container. So if I come down here and I run pct status, we can see that it's running already. And just when you're going through this guide, just make sure you make the adjustments. So if you're going to use a different container ID, or if you have a different IP address or gateway, your storage and your bridge should be the same, but just make sure you update it if you need to. So to get inside, we'll just do pct enter 105, and we can see we're in Excalidraw and we're ready to go. So let's just clear this out. First thing we're going to do is run this group of commands, and what this does is basically sets up your locale, so you'll get some warnings in like package manager if you don't do this. So it's just a good idea just to run these commands here. Oop, added an extra character there. And I'm using US English, but you can change it if you need to. And then we're going to update our container, so we have the latest packages, all the latest updates, and then we're going to install our dependencies. And then the next thing we're going to do is get Node installed. So Excalidraw basically runs on Node, and we're going to be using a method where we're going to download the Node tar from Node.js or Node.js.org, and we're going to install it that way. But keep in mind, I'm going to put a link to well, I mean, it's just nodejs.org, but you're going to want to make sure you're using the version that's out right now. So I'm using you want to always typically use like an LTS version, and right now 24 is the current LTS, but you might have like a different number here. So just make sure you're updating the command as needed that reflects, whatever you're downloading. And we're also getting the checksum here so that we can just verify that our download is good. So we'll copy this command and we will download this into our temp folder. And then here's where we do the checksum. This command is explained down here. It's pretty basic, but we're just making sure that we get this okay. That means that the file that we downloaded matches the checksum that's been specified for it. Next, we're going to extract this into our user local. And then we're going to just source our profile here so we can actually run node commands. So next we're going to just make sure everything installed correctly. We're going to check the version. We're going to check where it's installed. So we can see npm's version is the one that we specified earlier, or that's node. npm is 11.6.1, and then it's installed in our user local bin node. And then we do need, because we're going to be running the production build of Excalidraw, it uses way less resources. Like if you're using the helper scripts for Excalidraw, I'm pretty sure it uses the development build, which is not great. But to use the production build, we need to install serve here. So we'll just go ahead and install serve, and we have the which command afterwards just to make sure everything installed correctly. We can see perfect, it's in our user local bin serve. And next thing we're going to do is enable Corepack so we can install Yarn. And finally, we're going to do some cleanup. So we don't need that tar file or the checksum anymore. So we can go ahead and delete those. And then now we're actually going to download and build Excalidraw. So we're going to make a directory, and then we're going to clone it into that directory. And then we're going to move into that directory. And now we can do yarn install. And what this does is it installs all the project dependencies. It does take a little bit of time because there are quite a few. I've noticed that every once in a while, pretty rare, but every once in a while, this will fail because one of the URLs has like some sort of error. So if it does fail, and you can try running yarn install again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to try and install the dependencies. The ones that have been installed, they just won't be installed. That command is totally fine to run a second time if you need to. And the next thing we're going to do is set the max memory usage for Node to 3 gigs, just because this, when it's building, uses about like 2.6, 2.7 gigabytes of memory. So if it does fail for some reason, you can increase the space for your LXC temporarily and then make this number a little bit larger, and it'll build. It shouldn't need more than 3 gigabytes, but if it does, you can increase that just temporarily. And then we're going to actually yarn build app. So we're actually going to build the application. It's going to compile everything and put it in a build folder that we're going to use with our service that we're going to create next. So the build step does take a little bit of time, but it should build just fine. You're going to see a lot of warns, so don't worry about that. You might even get an error or two. There's nothing wrong with that unless you'll see at the end if you get this built, in 25 seconds, that means you're good. So if you saw warnings, if you saw errors, it's probably fine. You just want to make sure at the end you see this built in X amount of seconds. Okay, move on to creating the actual service itself. And we're going to paste in this. And we're basically just creating a really simple service and running a command to start Excalidraw using serve, which is for the production use here. There's more explanation below down here if you want to read it. It's going to be running on port 3000. We'll do Control X, Y, Enter to save that service. And then we'll reload our daemon here so that it recognizes the new service file. We're going to enable it, which means every time we start our LXC, it's going to start our service. And then we're going to actually start our service. Now, we should be able to run status here to see that the service is running. It is, so we can hit Q, and we're just going to clear that out. And we can run curl on our localhost 3000. That's where it's running right now. And we should get an HTTP 200 response. So we can see right here, we're good. And the next way we can check is by actually opening up our browser. So let me just hide these things here. So this is, of course, Proxmox. We can see Excalidraw is running on container ID 105, and you can see it's only using about 300 megabytes of memory, but there was like a little spike here up, well, it only went up to 1.37 gigs. That's when we did the build. But anyways, we can go to the IP address. So that was 105, and remember it was port 3000. And we can see that although it's bright, it does work. I don't know if there's a dark mode on this. I wish there was, because it is really bright. I'm sure there's got to be a dark mode. Or maybe you have to get the paid version or something. But anyways, it does work. And let's just bring up the instructions again. So now if you need to update Excalidraw in the future, you'll just stop the service. You'll move into the Excalidraw directory, and then you basically run a git pull command to get the latest updates. You'll do yarn install again. This says 4096 here. It could probably be 3072 based on what I saw. You'll basically just make sure that this is set again so you can build the application. And then you're going to just start the service again after it was built. So updating is pretty easy. And if you have Caddy installed, you can do a reverse proxy. I have a link to the video here. It's super easy. You just add, if you have it set up already, if you don't, check out the video, but you just can just add like draw.hake.rodeo, which is my domain that I use through Cloudflare so that I can get a SSL certificate. And then Firefox doesn't warn me about a invalid certificate. But I actually have that set up. So what it would look like is bring this up, and I can just do draw.hake.rodeo, and we can see I can actually open up Excalidraw. So super easy to do. I highly recommend using Caddy. And that's it for this video. So pretty straightforward. Excalidraw is awesome. I love, being able to do all my diagrams and everything. It's super quick. There's a lot you can do here, which is great, with like different colors, and you can change whether you want it to really look like rough drawn or like the sloppiness level, which is really cool. But anyways, not an ad for Excalidraw. It's a great application. You should try it out, and it's super easy to install. So hopefully it was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.